Welcome to Brazos Matters. I'm Jay Sokol. There are lots of things that make the Aggieland community special. Like our population is forever young. We are surrounded by the most amazing people like military heroes and astronauts, scientists and researchers who have improved lives around the world, and experts on every subject under the sun. But something you might not think about, more than 6,000 international students and scholars from 132 countries live here. And that infusion of cultural and intellectual diversity truly makes Bryan, College Station, Brazos County, and surrounding areas a compelling option for people looking for a place to raise a family or establish a business or just enjoy an excellent quality of life. Well, today's guests are going to help us get a deeper understanding of the efforts behind and the impacts of international education and research at Texas A&M University. So it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Holly Hudson, Associate Vice President for Global Engagement, and Samantha Clement, Director of International Student and Scholar Services. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Thank you. Of course. Well, let's start here. If I am correct, and I may not be, but global engagement is the umbrella department that oversees three broadly titled areas, but beneath each of those is wild. So I need you to help me understand global engagement at Texas A&M.
Yes, so you are correct. Global engagement is the umbrella of our global activities here at Texas A&M University. Broadly speaking, we do have the Education Abroad unit and then International Student and Scholar Services, which Samantha here runs. Okay. And then also an area that we're calling right now Global Partnerships and Initiatives, but we have called it Global Partnership Services before, and it may have a new name tomorrow. But essentially, that's kind of all of the other things that don't fall neatly under International Student and Scholar Services or Study Abroad, Education Abroad.
Okay.
So facilitating international agreements, our Fulbright program, our Soltis Center, all sorts of things.
Samantha, what did she get wrong?
That was excellent. No, absolutely, yes. So we are a really collaborative unit because all of us work in the field of international education. So we work together, and it's been wonderful to be, administratively together again in the university structure because we were separate for quite some time. So.
Yeah, we just actually reformed, I guess, in 2022 in the spring. So we're still a relatively new department on campus. All of these individual areas existed previously, but we reported to different areas on campus. So it's very helpful to be together again.
Yeah. So surely Texas A&M is competing with a host of other universities for the brightest minds. So what makes Texas A&M an attractive option for international faculty and students?
Well, as of the 2022 fall semester, we were number 26 in the United States for the number of international students and number 1 in the SEC. So we are doing the best in our athletic conference.
All right.
But we really see primarily international students coming to Texas A&M for graduate study in STEM fields, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and that really matches what we see on the nationwide scale. So they're attracted to come here for the expertise that we have at Texas A&M in those fields without any, organized recruitment effort. It's really up to individual departments and faculty who have connections and who are able to attract students because they want to come here for the experience.
Yeah, and we have such a great reputation in those STEM fields. So I think it's extremely attractive to graduate students and faculty to be a part of what we have here at A&M.
So there is not a coordinated effort on your part you're not putting up billboards and running TV ads internationally. It's department recruitment, it's word of mouth, reputation.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. There are occasionally some coordinated efforts for recruitment in various areas, but I would say that isn't on a large scale. So it really is very much dependent on department.
So what kind of staff and expertise is required on your part to help these international folks navigate all the immigration requirements and just the bureaucracy of it all?
Yeah, it gets pretty complicated sometimes. So when our office is fully staffed, we have 27 people. Most of those positions have an immigration component. The largest portion of our job is actually immigration, compliance, and document processing. So it may not be exactly what you think when you think of international student support. It's really making sure that we keep Texas A&M University in compliance with both the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State. And so most of our staff, including myself, we have access to a system called CVIS. That's the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, and we can issue immigration documents for those students and scholars to help them get to the United States. And so, like, the fundamental prerequisite is you have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident to have access. But beyond that, you have to like doing paperwork. You have to like interpreting and, understanding the complexity of the U.S. immigration system. But to be truly effective, you have to be interested and capable of advising on really complicated matters to people that may not have English as their first language, are already here doing something really complicated like a graduate program, but really need to understand this complex thing because it affects their life very significantly. So having empathy and just being willing to provide the support that they need is a really key piece. We have several other staff members who do a lot to support the office as well, and so I could spend too much time describing that, but a big piece is like putting programs and services together to support our students and scholars. So that's another big piece of our team.
I would say that Samantha and her team are very detail-oriented and excellent at interpreting very complex regulations that have a lot of room for interpretation, right? So one institution might interpret a regulation very differently than another, or maybe not very differently, but somewhat differently. And so it's very unique skill set. We joke around that they think immigration is fun, and we need to get a T-shirt that says, immigration is fun. I'm not sure if I believe it, but they make me want to believe it.
I mean, there have to be quiet heroics happening from your staff every single day. And, we just don't know about it. But like you said, it has significant impacts on these students and faculty members.
Absolutely. Yeah, our team is outstanding. They process over 17,000 immigration requests annually from our students and scholars, and participate in some way in over 80 events every year for our students and scholars. So they're really working extremely hard to not only provide what our students and scholars need, like they truly do need in order just to be here and to stay here legally, but then also the extra things that make their experience a richer experience, help them feel welcome and feel like they belong here at Texas A&M.
So we're recording this just a little bit before the start of the fall semester, and you've probably touched on little bits of this, but what does your world look like in these days leading up into a semester? Like, what are your offices doing specifically? Give us some examples, because I have to think it is a frenzy.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very busy. We are preparing right now for several big events, one being our global welcome party, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later. But yes, in more detail, Samantha's team are continuing to process all of the immigration paperwork that's required to host these students and scholars who are coming in to stay with us, we hope, for quite a while, and to be successful here. In addition, they're doing their orientation. So when students arrive, we have to acclimate them here to Texas A&M and provide them a fair amount of information that's quite different than our domestic population.
Right.
So they're busy getting orientations ready to go and preparing our students for their arrival and tenure at A&M.
Well, that was going to be my next question is how do you help get these folks acclimated as quickly as possible to a huge university in the mythical state of Texas where, we all ride horses and we go check our oil wells?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Well, I think in a lot of ways. So first of all, we don't do it alone because we have an incredible amount of support and resources at this institution that provide services for all students, including our international students. So our undergraduate students can go to the new student conference. Our graduate students can go to the new graduate student orientation, and they are providing outstanding resources for everyone. And so our students take advantage of that. Plus, many of the departments and colleges have their own additional onboarding and orientation resources. But beyond that, we have an online orientation that students can review at any time, especially helpful for those who can't come in person to our orientation. And then our in-person new international student orientation this year is on August 17th, so we're having it on a Saturday. And it's a full-day conference of topics that we feel that it would be beneficial for an international student to know. Some of the topics they don't get to choose, so we talk to them about how to maintain your immigration status, how do you work in the United States, what are some of the health and safety things that you need to keep in mind. But then there are optional sessions as well, like dating in the United States and academic integrity, because those definitions are very different across the globe, and many other things. So there's that opportunity for them to get connected, and then throughout the year we have events and services to try to keep that orientation programming going and helping them when closer to when they're actually dealing with some of these things. So we partner with many units on campus to provide those resources.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you just tuned in, I'm Jay Sokol. You're listening to Brazos Matters, and my guests today are both from Texas A&M University, Dr. Holly Hudson, the Associate Vice President for Global Engagement, and Samantha Clement, Director of International Student and Scholar Services. So let's talk about education abroad.
Okay.
Was that formally called study abroad? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me if I'm right in saying this, that Aggies have always been exceptional, but there was a time when Aggies weren't necessarily worldly and experienced with other cultures, which tended to hurt their marketability. So how did A&M evolve into the country's top institution for sending students abroad?
That is a great question. I would say it was a concerted and intentional effort on the part of many administrations over many years to really encourage faculty to think about developing the programming in their academic area that would expose students to other cultures. And they have done so. I just am so impressed with our faculty and their ability to get students to go abroad, because I think going to college for many students is such an overwhelming life decision.
Yes.
Moving from someplace small in Texas to College Station is in and of itself a very big decision.
That was me.
Right. Mm-hmm. All of us, I think, have had similar experiences. And then you get here, and then people like us go and say, hey, we're glad you're here, but now we want you to go away again. And not only do we want you to go away, we want you to go somewhere out of this country, completely foreign place that you've never even maybe heard of or thought about going. And it really is, we have an excellent education abroad team that helps students participate in these transformative experiences, but we really couldn't do it without faculty also in developing programs and encouraging students to do it, right? Because students are in front of faculty every day, and they get to share those experiences with students in their classrooms and then in their advising. And that is really, I think, what has moved the needle on studying abroad at Texas A&M is the support of the administration, but also the work of the faculty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you are trying to convince a student, or maybe a student's parents, I don't know how often that happens too, but when you're trying to sell a study abroad, an education
No,
abroad
that's okay.
experience. What are some of the things that you share as benefits, and even though this may be a little tough financially, like here's what you're going to get out of it?
Sure. Well, the Education Abroad Office, I would say, is very gifted in helping students identify resources to offset some of those additional expenses. And certainly we have great scholarships and financial aid support and other programs on campus that dedicate funding for ed abroad experiences. But one thing that we tell them is it's a great return on investment, right? You are really participating in a transformational, high-impact experience that will benefit you in many ways. And if you can articulate that experience on a resume or in an interview, you're really putting yourself in a different percentage of people who may get the best job or the best graduate student stipend or scholarship or admission, right? Because study abroad is one of those things that teaches you to deal with ambiguity. It teaches you to work in a team. It teaches you to navigate unknowns, right? And these are all skills that we need to have to work in a global, interconnected workplace, right? But these are not necessarily skills that you automatically learn sitting in a classroom, right? It's like putting your education into action. And that's really what we try to emphasize for students and parents who are apprehensive. Because if you're graduating from Texas A&M University and you've got your ring and you're competing for opportunities with other great Aggies that also have their ring, you know, what's going to set you apart? And we really think, and we know through many studies over many years that study abroad is one of the things that can do that.
Yeah. Samantha, any of your thoughts about that?
I completely agree, and I think that a lot of the team just within our Department of Global Engagement have their own personal experiences of studying abroad, and so while I don't work in that role every day, when I have the opportunity to engage with students about that, sometimes it's as simple as sharing your own story of how it changed your life that can really encourage someone to take that leap, because it really is an outstanding experience and something that so many students can speak to because they've done it here. So.
Yeah, and our director of study abroad, or education abroad, is Pascal Parker, who was actually an international student. So she really spans the gamut there and can really speak to what it's like to, study as an international student in the U.S., but then also now to live in the U.S. and to run international programs.
So are there any countries that we're not currently in that you're shooting for, or are we everywhere we need to be?
So that's a good question. We had one of our great faculty in the College of Education takes some students to Antarctica recently.
I saw that.
Yeah, Dr. Jay Woodward, and he broke down that barrier of the last continent that we had, not traveled to. So that was really great. So now we're on all the continents, but we don't. I don't know that there's any country specifically that we need to break barriers in, but we offer, I think, 800 or so different opportunities for students, either through faculty-led programs, exchanges, or third-party programs. So I think students can pretty much go anywhere they want to go as long as there's no risk element there that would prohibit them from going.
Right.
Because we take that very seriously.
So you mentioned a little earlier about the 2024 Global Welcome Party that happens a little bit later this month. What is the Global Welcome Party and who's it for?
So the Global Welcome Party is an event that developed through our office as originally like an international student welcome party, but it is grown as we've joined Department of Global Engagement, as we've expanded the role of who we serve, because we also in ISSS serve international scholars who are here doing outstanding research and internships and not studying as students themselves. And so we also decided it would be fantastic, an opportunity to bring together students who've gone abroad and are back at A&M now. So those education abroad returnees, and we also partner with Education Abroad to support exchange students. And lastly, we have faculty on this campus who are international or foreign nationals themselves who we really just want this event to be an opportunity to welcome and show our appreciation to all of those individuals. So it really is for everyone, and it's an opportunity for us to show that not only do they belong at Texas A&M, that they are Aggies, but that this university is committed to them. And so this year the event is going to be on Friday, August 23rd. We hold it in the Aggie Park because we have outgrown any indoor space on this campus. And we're really excited because the president and the provost have been so supportive of this event. We have the singing cadets and the Yell leaders coming again, as well as performances from lots of outstanding student organizations. And so it's just a really fun evening, but it's an opportunity for our new international students and scholars to get to experience what A&M is all about. It's probably their first big event that they'll go to here. But for current students and scholars, it's also a way for them to reconnect and to start building their own Aggie network right before this, or right at the beginning of the semester.
Is this a rain or shine event?
Well, to the extent that we can do it outdoors safely.
Sure.
So we do have a backup date in September if we are rained out. But as long as there's no lightning, yes, we will be able to have the event.
Yes, and it's definitely a hotter event. So no matter what the temperature is, we're outside.
True. So I'm obviously a permanent resident in this community. What could I do to make our international visitors feel welcomed? What could that look like?
That's a really good question. We've had the opportunity lately to engage with some different organizations within the community that are asking the same questions. So I think that's great that there's a general awareness now of these communities in College Station. And I would say just simple things, and Samantha can elaborate, but as a student who studied in another country, it was always lovely to be invited into someone's home, right? Just to see what is a typical French home like, right? Or what is a typical meal like, right? So just little things like that, inviting them into your home, asking them to participate in unique American holidays, Thanksgiving, Halloween, things that are a little bit different here, 4th of July. And I would say listening, appreciating, letting them tell their story, being curious, if you have school-age children and, connecting them maybe with the school system to perhaps let them be involved in international fairs and activities that might be happening in the schools. So there are all sorts of ways that you could engage international students to help them feel supported here. Giving them rides, transportation is always something that we struggle with a little bit. So anytime you can give a student a lift to a store, that's always helpful as well.
Go ahead, Samantha.
Sure. So I would just add that, keeping in mind that for the majority of our international students and scholars, they've spent their entire life in a different culture, and now they're having to adapt everything they knew, and that can affect them in so many ways, from just your basic interactions, like forming a line or a queue, to more complicated things like, what do you do if you're driving and a law enforcement officer is flashing their lights behind you? Well, the reaction to that is extremely different in many places. So I think just keeping in mind that it takes a lot for someone to undo or learn something new when they've been doing it one way for a really long time, and trying to put yourself in their shoes and think, how would I handle that if I was in this other country and I had that experience? But more specifically, if you are interested and really want to get involved with international students and scholars, there are multiple ways you can volunteer. And so we have volunteer opportunities through our office. and they can reach out to us. It's just ISSS@tamu.edu.
Okay.
And we also have opportunities coming up later this semester. Our department is going to be coordinating International Education Week activities on campus, and there'll be opportunities to attend events to learn even more about all the different things that are going on internationally focused on our campus. And then if you feel so inclined, there's also ways that you can donate and provide support, both for international programs, but also there's a need to provide more support for students and scholars who are facing emergencies and crisis, and so that would be another fantastic way to get involved.
What about holidays? You know, we all seem to scatter when it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas time, but that's not what all of our international community is able to do. What could we do in those circumstances? Or what is your office doing in those circumstances?
Well, at the simplest, as a simplest response, we are available to support them if they have a crisis. We are available 24/7 if a student or scholar has an emergency and needs to get in touch with someone. Either myself or another member of our leadership team can assist them. But there are numerous community groups that do provide programs and services, and so we are always happy to send that information on your behalf to all the international students and scholars so they know about it. And there are multiple groups in the community who have been doing that for decades. And we invite anyone who's interested in doing something like that to just reach out to us, and we can send that out.
Yeah, and we do try to host significant holiday, banquets or receptions or things where we can showcase a little bit about the American tradition and include them in those as well.
Good. So with the final minute or so that we have left, any parting comments or just online destinations for people to go to learn more?
Yes, so to learn more, you can go to global.tamu.edu, and ISSS, or as we call it, ISSS, and Education Abroad also have websites that you can get to through global.tamu.edu. And we would just, welcome you at the Global Welcome Party. There is a registration that I believe you can access online.
Yes, it's live. It went live on Friday.
Excellent. And so we would encourage anyone to come out and meet our international students and our return study abroad students and just have conversations and engage.
That sounds perfect. Dr. Holly Hudson and Samantha Clement, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been fun.
Thank you for having us.
You bet.
Yeah.
Brazos Matters is a production of Aggieland's Public Radio, 90.9 KAMU-FM, a member of Texas A&M University's Division of Marketing and Communications. Our show is engineered and edited by Matt Dittman. All Brazos Matters episodes are available on the KAMU website, on the NPR app, YouTube, or on your favorite podcast platform. We would love for you to rate and review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Jay Sokol. Thanks so much for listening to Brazos Matters. Have a great day.